Hello, everybody. We're going to discuss Module 5 corrections. You can see the objectives. I'll give you a minute to review them. Something that you may want to focus on would be the Module 5 corrections training handout. That's your assignment. And then down further, you'll see we'll review the Module 5 live classroom question. Let's move on. Your readings, chapters 9, 10, and 11. And then you have a link from the Rasmussen Online Library. If you click on that, you will receive information about creating a pamphlet or brochure. Your chapter 9 outline. Anytime you see an icon, the blue icon at the bottom of the screen, you know that this will be posted in our course announcements. Chapter 11. Now, let's review the assignment, the competency, the scenario, and the 3 items under instructions. Also, look at the fact that you will be creating a handout.
We are moving right along in our police officer journey. Today, we're stepping into the shoes of a seasoned police officer tasked with mentoring a new recruit. Together, we've just made an arrest for a DUI second offense, and our offender is curious about the jail process. Join me as we navigate this scenario and prepare a training handout for our upcoming session on the corrections system and sentencing options. Picture this. You and your new partner have just arrested a driver for a DUI second offense. Local policy mandates that the driver be jailed and booked, with a bail amount set at $1,000. On the way to jail, the offender turns to you and asks about the process. Given that it's also your partner's first trip to jail, you take charge of the conversation and explain the entire process. Now let's discuss the specifics of the training handout. Distinguish between traditional and non-traditional corrections. Provide examples of each to illustrate the varied approaches within the correctional system. Detail the security levels for prisons and explain why each level is necessary. Help your mentees understand the sine fecunce of maintaining security within correctional facilities. Explore alternate forms of sentencing and discuss when an offender may receive this type of sentencing. Highlight the flexibility in sentencing options and the considerations that influence these decisions. Remember, this training handout is not just a document. It's a tool to enhance understanding and foster effective communication within our law enforcement team.
Okay, now I'll provide additional information that may help you complete Module 5 assignment. First, please look at the grading rubric. Focus in on the mastery column. We're going to repeat the difference between traditional and non-traditional corrections. You'll look at the prison security levels and their necessity. You'll discuss the alternate forms of sentencing and conditions for receival. And finally, your professional language. Please use APA formatting in your references. Please use original words. Avoid copying and pasting your information. You can read the information, but please put it in your own words. Conditional corrections. What are some examples? And what's the brief definition? The brief definition is systems focusing on punishment and deterrence. Examples include jails and prisons, probation and parole, and solitary confinement. How many people are locked up in the United States? This is broken down by type of confinement: the local jails, state prisons, and the federal prisons. You can also find other information on this slide. Remember, I make a recording of this presentation, and I also share a PDF file. Did you know that 1 in 3 people behind bars is in a jail? Most have yet to be tried in court. What happens in your state? You will have a link to this map, and you'll be able to click on your state to find out more information. Non-traditional corrections. You have a definition and examples. The definition is, which is brief, emphasis, rehabilitation, and reintegration. Examples of non-traditional corrections follows: mental health courts, community-based programs, restorative justice, and electronic monitoring. Why non-traditional corrections matter? They reduce recidivism. They address underlying causes such as drug addiction. They're cost-effective and community-focused, and they support reintegration. They support reintegration by keeping the offender in the community. Here's the difference between traditional corrections and non-traditional corrections. Note the criteria used to define the difference between traditional and non-traditional corrections. Let's explore the Federal Bureau of Prisons. This map shows the location of Federal Bureau of Prisons. You might find more information about your federal prison by clicking on the link. There are 5 prison security levels: minimum, low, medium, and administrative. On this table, you will read the description of each and the necessity or purpose of each. Why do we have security levels? To protect, prevent, match, and provide. Protect the staff, prevent escapes, match custody level to offender risk, and provide appropriate programming and rehabilitation. Now, I will play a short segment of the video. You will have access to the full video in a course announcement.
So they say once you are indicted by the feds that your case is already over. Now, that's only partially true, but the government does have about a 98% conviction rate. However, determining guilt or innocence is only one part of the equation. From there, the defendants are concerned about the sentence length or the amount of prison time that they will serve and where they will spend it. Because in the federal system, you can wind up anywhere from a camp that's more akin to a dormitory at a college, or you can be placed in a maximum security lockdown facility in a tiny cell for most of the day, every day. So how does the Bureau of Prisons determine where an inmate will serve his or her time? Well, you're about to find out.
Remember, I will provide a link to that 24-minute video and a course announcement. Let's look at some examples, starting with the lowest level, and that's a camp.
Hi, everyone. This is Justin Paperny with White Collar Advice, and today I'm going to talk with my mentor and colleague, Michael Santos. Michael, many of the clients, by way of White Collar Advice, end up at a federal prison camp. Some, however, do go to a low, and there are many questions about the differences between a low and a camp. You, of course, served 26 consecutive years in prisons of all security levels, including a low and a camp. So on the top of your mind, are there any significant differences that you can share with our viewers?
Absolutely. There's a big difference between a low and a camp. As you mentioned, I served time in prisons of every security level, and I can tell you every security level where you drop, there is a huge difference. Now, that doesn't mean that an individual can't live a life of meaning and relevance regardless of where he or she is confined, but there are big differences between security levels.
Okay, now I'm going to stop the video, but you will have full access to the full video. Medium security. You're going to find similar services at some of the institutions. You'll also note that in these, males are confined. But we do have locations for women, and I'll share that with you later. Next, we'll look at the penitentiary. There are 17 penitentiaries within the federal prison system, all of which are high security facilities. Metropolitan Correctional City in Chicago. It houses both female and male inmates. This is one example. This is located in downtown Chicago. Note the shape of the windows. That's designed perfectly to prevent escapes. Now, some say that we have a 6th level of security, and that's called Supermax.
ADX Florence, built south of Florence, Colorado in 1994, is the most secure prison in the United States. ADX Florence, built south of Florence, Colorado in 1994, is the most secure prison in the United States prison system. America's only federal Supermax prison is home to some of the world's most dangerous criminals, including names you might recognize: Today, we will tell you about the Florence Supermax, America's toughest prison. Number 7, what is a Supermax prison? Supermax prisons are the highest level security prisons, designed to hold inmates that pose extreme security threats. Inmates have little to no time outside of their cells, very few activities, and very little contact with other humans. Alcatraz is considered to be an early example of what would become the Supermax model. The controversial penitentiary on the outskirts of Florence, a small rural town once founded as a pass-through for coal-carrying trains in the 1800s, first started housing inmates in 1994. Today, ADX is home to 361 of the country's most high-profile criminals. Prisoners here, we're talking serial killers, terrorists, mobsters, cult leaders, drug kingpins, and those deemed too violent to live among a general prison population, live in near continuous solitary confinement. Inmates spend 23 or more hours a day isolated in soundproof 7 by 12-foot cells outfitted with a single 4-inch slit for a window. Due to these conditions, the ADX has been at the center of contentious debate about human rights and solitary confinement's effect on mental health. As Robert Hood, a former warden of the ADX, told the New York Times in 2015,
even though there's only one Supermax, federal government Supermax, many states have a Supermax area located in their state prisons. In fact, if you've ever heard the name KB, he's the person that was convicted of killing 4 Idaho students. He'll be in his Supermax area.
ADX Florence.
Some pros and cons of a Supermax. How do penitentiaries compare to Supermax? I'll give you a minute to look at this. The inmate population for a Supermax is the most dangerous and disruptive inmates. You get a single cell, you'll spend your time between 22 to 24 hours in that small single cell. So where are women located? This map shows the facilities housing female offenders.
But now, the U.S. locks more people up than any other country. More than 2 million Americans are in jails or prisons here, and more than 200,000 of those prisoners are female. Amna Nawaz takes a closer look at the conditions faced by women behind bars.
Judy, nearly 30% of all incarcerated women worldwide are in the United States, and the number of women in U.S. prisons.
Inmate age. I'll share this site with you. Remember, you will have a link to all the videos. I cut them short during this presentation. I encourage you to watch the full videos. Comparison of federal, state, and local corrections. So what alternatives to incarceration? You can see that we have several types. On this slide, you would have access to these. If the link does not work, find the link in the course announcement. So when are alternatives used? For first-time nonviolent offenders, for juveniles, for substance abuse or mental health issues, for overcrowded facilities, and for high rehabilitation potential. Not everybody is allowed an alternative. but these are the types of people that may be assigned to an your Module 6 live classroom question.
What'd you say?
Every inmates in Norwegian prison are going back to the society. Everyone. You want people who are angry, or you want people who are rehabilitated.
Literally locked up behind high concrete walls.
The conditions for the prisoners are borderline inhumane.
They don't realize you're a human being. They don't care if you're, to them, you're not a human being. Until the day the judge says that you didn't commit this crime, you're an animal.
Note the recidivism rate for America, and then note the recidivism rate for Norway.
Restorative justice programs. Because our brains are capable of change, we need to take responsibility for our actions, and they need to take responsibility for their rehabilitation.
Has lots of possibilities to go to school and everything. I feel that I can become a better person.
Okay, for the question, write at least one college paragraph. Your paragraph should represent a college paragraph rule of thumb, which is listed here. Please submit your answer to the Module 5 live classroom. That's worth 5 points. Optional, please share your response in the 6th course community. That is optional, but encouraged. And now our summary. We have identified the readings and resources. We reviewed chapters 9, 10, and 11. We described Module 5 corrections training handout. We explained the difference between traditional and non-traditional corrections. We explored the Federal Bureau of Prisons. We classified prison security levels and their necessity. We explored alternate forms of sentencing and when an offender may receive this type of sentencing. And we reviewed the Module 5 live classroom question. If you have any questions, please send them to me or call me. I care about your success. As a final note, please remember, use your words. Avoid copying and paste. Thank you for watching.